The Great Loop is a 6,000 mile journey. With those thousands of miles comes many, many hours. Now we're starting the loop again soon, so we'd like to start with a fresh, clean plate, so we're gonna knock all of our maintenance out here and now. Now on board our 1989 Marine Trader, we have two engines on board. We have a 5 kilowatt Westerbeke diesel generator, and we also have a Ford Lehman Super 135. We also have 700 watts of solar here on Pivot with 600 amp hours of lithium battery, and that does supply the majority of our electrical need, but we do run our generator every once in a while. For one reason is just to maintain it and to use it, because these engines like to be run. The second thing is when we're at anchor for about a week or longer, our batteries will start to drain, especially because we're always on our computers and our camera gear and stuff like that. And then thirdly, we do need our generator to run a few things. One is our convection oven, and the second one is our water heater. And now the Super 135 Ford Lehman engine that we have in here is actually a pretty breeze to do maintenance on, and runs like a charm because it's an old Ford tractor engine. It's been marinized. Even though I'm an engineer, I'm a computer engineer, which means all of this was completely new to me a year ago. So if you have anything that I should add to this, please let me know in the comments below. Now today I'm going to be focusing on three things. That's fuel, oil, and our cooling system. Now one of the things that diesels need to run well is good fuel, which means no sediment, no water. And for that we kind of have two systems on board, and it's the same for our Westerbeke and also our Lehman. We have a Raycor fuel separator, which does the initial big bulk of the cleaning of the fuel, and then we have a secondary filter that's on each of the engines. Now for the fuel filter maintenance, we're going to be changing out our Raycor filters first, which is the bigger ones. Now this is the one for the main engine, and this is the one for our generator. These are both 2 micron. And first things first, let's shut off our fuel delivery, just that way we don't have fuel going all over the place, and let out some rags so that way I'm not cleaning up diesel fuel.
There is a life I lead in this city, hurrying to cut my teeth. I can take what I need to get by. It doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart moves slow, somewhere in the cradle.
It was good to do the fuel filters now because, as you can see, there was quite a bit of gunk that we took out.
Carry me like I am whole again. Wait, hold on, put me together. Take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all.
Now that we've changed the 2 Raycor filters, it's on to the secondary filters. Now on the Westerbeke, the secondary filter is very hard to get to, and I just changed it, so I'm not going to be doing that one. But the secondary filter on the Ford Lehman is a little bit easier, and it's 2 fuel filters, and they'll be a little bit different than the one we just did.
Put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone.
Now one thing to keep in mind, and that's what's taking me pretty long right now, is that we have to make sure that all of the gaskets are there. And so for the secondary fuel filters, there's 4 gaskets. There's one on the top, one on the bottom, one on the middle part, and then 2 on the middle part. So there's quite a bit of gaskets, and getting the old ones off, putting the new ones on, making sure there's not any ripples is going to be important so we don't have any leaks that allow fuel out and air in.
If I could take you back to my youth and show you what I wish I knew.
Now that we have the secondary fuel filter for the Lehman done, both primary Raycors, it's time to bleed and then start the engines. Now bleeding is removing the air from the fuel lines because diesels cannot run whenever you have air in there because there's not enough compression. So to do that we have a hand pump. The previous owner installed one for us, so bleeding the main engine's really easy. And then for our generator, we have an electric pump built into the Westerbeke. So we just preheat it and that will pump the fuel through. The engine ran great. I ran it for about 5 minutes just to kind of get the oil warmed up for the next phase of what we're doing. But I left it in the least amount of throttle I could give it and it just purred right along. So that's how we know the fuel is processing well. There's not any air or sediments in our fuel. Now on to the generator. That's the sound that you have air in your fuel lines. So now we'll just kind of keep priming it. It's a little bit harder for us to bleed the Westerbeke because you're not supposed to preheat it for too long, and the preheat is what does bleed it. Some people, and this is always a good option too, is you have a spare can of diesel on board. So if you fill up the thing with diesel, the big Raycor filter that we emptied, so that way we really don't have to bleed that much out of it, but I just didn't have any on board. So it'll just take a little bit longer to bleed. And just like that, our fuel maintenance is done. Now on to the next one, oil. And as you know,
diesels love their oil like a sailor loves his rum.
Now that our engines are warmed up from our fuel filter change and subsequent test, we have 3 oil changes we're doing. We have our Ford Lehman 135 main engine oil change, we have our Westerbeke oil change, the generator, and we will also be changing the transmission oil. Now it's kind of hard to get around and actually get the oil out, so what we use is a drill and a pump, and I'll put a link up here. This is where you can find the pump. It's really cheap and you can just use your drill that you have around, and it goes right into the dipstick of all 3 of those. So we'll just do one after the other right now. It's been hard to find the same make of oil all throughout the coast, so I try to use the same oil that I've been using, but if I can't, I can't. And this will be my 3rd oil change on the main engine, so it's been fine so far. Hopefully it continues to be.
Place to lean. In the moment I hung desperately. The other ring on my wrist is gold. Pairing with the light poles. When I return from my skin and bone, I'm remembering the words you told me. Wait, hold on, put me together. Take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Wait, hold on.
And with that, all of the oil changes are done. And just for reference, it'll normally take me about a half an hour, start to finish, to do our main engine. And we'll do that every 200 hours. That comes out to probably an oil change maybe every 3 months, plus or minus, depending on how much we're moving.
Put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is off.
Now as we're coming towards the end of our day of maintenance here on Pivot, it's the final system to perform our maintenance, and that's our cooling system. So one of the differences between these engines on a boat and then engines on land is a lot of them are cooled from the water around the boat. So that means we have a strainer and then a pump that pumps the water through the engine to cool it. Now for that system, there's one critical piece that can fail, and when it fails, it could cause a lot of problems, and that's our impeller. So it's a little thing that will basically pump the water through the system. So we're going to check that, and then we're also going to check our zincs so we don't get corrosion from salt water. Now before we start either of these two, we need to make sure we shut off the water coming into the boat, because we don't want to undo something and have water just pump into the boat. That would not be bueno. And here is the impeller that we're going to be changing. We have one for the generator and we have one for the engine. Wow, this zinc is practically done. I'm really glad I'm changing these right now. It has been 3 months, I think, since I changed it and had a new one in there. Pretty crazy that it's corroded this much in that short amount of time.
Into your presence now. Hey baby, can you tell I'm not a criminal? Your choice is seminal. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say. Just find your way and try to stay true.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish everything yesterday, but with the impeller on our generator, we are good to go. Now it's time for us to verify that we didn't screw anything up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run both the engine and the generator independently. We're going to make sure they sound good, but most importantly, we're going to make sure we have water coming out of the exhaust. And if I don't see any water coming out of the exhaust, I'll shut it off real quick and diagnose it further. The generator looks great, and I will keep monitoring it, making sure we don't have any oil leaks or anything. Just doing the standard checks going forward before I run it. Now on to our primary engine, good old Linda. It's definitely a big peace of mind for me, making sure that the boat is up to date, and I'm also inspecting different parts of our engines to see if anything looks weird before something becomes a big issue. So it's a big peace of mind doing this maintenance on schedule, and it'll be nice starting the loop with a fresh, clean plate. Along with marking the hours on our filters, I also make sure to mark it in our captain's log, and I also put it in a spreadsheet I have online that keeps track of how often I'm supposed to do these things. We'll also put that in the blog post, so if you want to see what we use, check it out there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. And the other one is our hot water heater. Our water heater. And the second one is our water heater. Even though I'm an engineer, I'm a computer engineer, which means all of this stuff was new to me a year ago. Don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. Sorry, Ollie. Excuse me. Beep beep.